There's no doubt a bike is a great tool for going shopping. You know, if you've got a pannier on the bike, you can get a reasonable amount of shopping in, and you can get into the town.
Exactly, you don't have to park so far away.
It's
you
free.
can cycle right into the centre.
Yeah, no parking charges.
No.
If you can find parking.
Well.
But of course, one of the problems with using a bicycle to go into a town, or anywhere for that matter, is if you leave it while you're in the shops, there's a high chance it won't be there when you come back. Now, of course, you can mitigate that loss by locking up your bike. It's true to say that many bike thefts are opportunistic. Somebody sees a bike unlocked or poorly locked and they'll just walk away with it. Now, in those sort of cases, an average lock is okay, because unless they're equipped with some sort of cutting device, be it an angle grinder or bolt cutters, then clearly they're not going to be able to take your bike. But if they're equipped with an angle grinder, then they can pretty much get through anything. It just depends how long it's going to take them. So if I was travelling into town and leaving my bike for any length of time, I'd take an old bike that I wouldn't mind if I lost. Now, I've had one or two comments about locking bikes and asking the question about locking bikes and locks in particular. Now, I can't talk about locks because I've got no means of testing the security of a lock. But clearly, the stronger the lock, the higher the rating, the longer it's going to take somebody to break. And that's really the most you can wish for. But of course, there are the opportunists that will come along, and if they don't steal your bike, they'll steal parts of your bike. And that's where locking the bike correctly comes in. Now, frankly, when I was asked these questions about bike locking, I thought I really can't see that anybody needs that advice. But just walking along this row of bike racks in Newark has proved otherwise. So what I thought we'd do is just show you the correct method of locking a bike. Now, if you know this already, then just ignore me, many do. But hopefully, if you don't know, and certainly evidence is that a lot of people don't know, then it may just save your bike. Now, I was concerned when I was looking at making this video that I'd be teaching Granny to suck eggs. Surely everyone knows how to lock a bike properly, but I'll just show you something. So these are the bike racks here at Newark, and just have a look at how they're locked. Now, this is, I would say, a pretty expensive electric bike. It's got a reasonable D-lock, but it's just purely locked around the carrier. So it'd be dead easy to unbolt that carrier and walk away with it. There's another one that's purely locked around the frame. Another D-lock, again, just around the frame. Be easy enough to take those wheels. This one, pretty heavy duty chain. That actually is just around the carrier, so you could take the carrier off. Got a pretty hefty lock here. That's around the frame, and it's around the wheel as well, a separate lock. So that's pretty good. It's the only one that's locked properly. And then we have another one here that's locked around the frame. Well, I was just taking that video of the bike racks and somebody said, "Hello, Roy." And it's this lady, Nicole.
Hello.
And here we are in Newark, and Nicole is from Wolverhampton.
Yes, and my husband is currently cycling from Boston, where his parents live, to Newark. Excellent. And I'll pick him up and we'll go the rest of the way by car.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you for subscribing.
Yeah.
Nicole spoilt it, though, just afterwards, saying that they also look at DIY videos, so it's obviously a pretty low bar. Now, my favourite bike racks are these bike pods, and as you can see, they actually secure your front wheels. In my case, with a through axle, it would be impossible to get that through axle out of there to remove that front wheel. All we need to do now is worry about the frame and the rear wheel. So what we're going to do is put the lock through the rear wheel, around the frame, and lock it. So there's absolutely no way anybody can take that rear wheel or the frame, because as you can see, the whole thing is locked together. Now this review is nothing to do with locks, because obviously that's a whole different subject. You know, I'm not equipped to show people how strong locks are. My view is that any lock can be removed. It just depends how long it's going to take to remove it. And if you think your bike's safe in a busy area, then I think you've got to think again, because it's proven that people just walk on by and don't take any notice, even when somebody's using an angle grinder. So the lock I've just been showing you is just a cafe lock, and frankly that could be removed at the drop of a hat. I mean, I think a pair of garden shears would break that, but it's okay while you're inside a cafe and you can see your bike, for example.
Isn't it welcoming though?
Beautiful,
I love
isn't
the umbrellas.
Now, if you're not lucky enough to find one of these nice bike pods that protects your front wheel, then there are other ways around it. If your front wheels are expensive in particular, there are ways you can get around it. But the first thing we'll do is just look at how we should lock our bike to a standard Sheffield stand. Now, we've already said that apart from the frame, the wheels are the next expensive parts on a bike, so they need to be protected. So for this next part, I'll have my lovely female assistant, but she wasn't available, so Wendy's here today. So Wendy's going to show you now how we really should lock a bike. So if you would like to show how that works, Wendy.
Can I just put a caveat here? How Roy says I should really lock a bike.
Yeah, well, that's true. So as you can see, Wendy has put the lock through the frame and the wheel. So if somebody tried to take the wheel out, they couldn't, but equally they couldn't move the frame either. So if you need to protect your front wheel as well, then all you need to do is take it off and then lock it in with the rest of the bike. You can see here we've only gone through one part of the frame, but that's still fine. But obviously then you'll be concerned about the forks on the ground, so all we've done here is deployed an old sock and job done. So just to conclude with my tips for keeping your bike safe, the first thing I would do is, if I was regularly leaving my bike for long periods of time, so on a commute or whatever, I'd buy an old bike, just one that nobody would really want to bother stealing. Of course, there are the scroats that will take anything, but they're not likely to try and defeat just a basic lock. They really want something they can easily take away. Now, if you're riding a valuable bike, I would suggest taking as many locks as you can. Many progressive town centres will actually have a pole where you can store your locks, so you don't have to carry them with you all the time, and they're not being left on a rack getting in other people's way. And at least one of those locks needs to be a solid secure design, a D-lock preferably, and one that's large enough to include the rear wheel and frame triangle. Now, you may have your bike insured, but many insurance companies will dictate the quality of the lock that you use. So it could be that the lock you're using isn't considered to be of a suitable standard by the insurance company. The other thing I would do is take a photograph of my locked bike, so that the insurance company, if you did have a claim, could see that on that day you had left it secure. And it's considered to be essential to spend around 10% of the value of your bike on a lock. So in other words, the more expensive the bike, hopefully the more secure the lock will be. However, I don't believe there's a lock made that can't be defeated at some point. And of course, you've got these people going around with battery-powered angle grinders and searching for high-end bikes. They almost have a shopping list. And that brings me to one of my other recommendations, which is to leave your bike in an area preferably covered by CCTV and hopefully with a high footfall. And whilst on the subject of location, even if I was leaving my bike in a secure cycle store, I'd still add a lock, because the fact is other people are using that cycle store too. And when you lock your bike, try to keep the lock as tight as possible against the frame and off the ground, and that means that the thief won't be able to apply any leverage to the lock. The first thing I do when I buy a bike is to register it on the bike register. And this is a UK register that the police can access. And it means if somebody's buying a second-hand bike, they can actually check the serial number against the bike register. It's a free service, so why not use it? And if you want to pay a bit more, I think it's around about the £20, you can actually buy a marking kit from Bike Register. But also look out for your local police force. They'll sometimes have free bike marking events. I did mention some time ago the test we're doing with the Android version of the Apple AirTag. One of our friends is going to take Wendy's Apple AirTag and my Android tag. He's going to ride off with it as if he'd stolen our bikes, but on his bike, of course. And then we're going to give him probably half an hour and then we'll track him. And hopefully we'll find him. And what we're going to do is show you the differences between the two tags and ultimately if we can locate them again. We're just waiting for a day when we're all available and then we'll be doing that. So I hope some of you found that useful. I know most of you will know all this already, but as I said, looking at the evidence, there are people that still don't know how to lock their bike. If this just saves one person having their bike stolen, it'll have been worth it. So thank you for watching, and if you do have any friends that you think could benefit from this advice, then please pass it on to them. But until next time, I'll say goodbye, safe riding, and I hope your bike stays safe. So all we need to do is worry about the back end. So what we're going to do here...
No,
no,
you can't worry about the back end.
So all take 10. So all we need to do here is worry about the, I'm going to say rear end.